Yeah, you're looking for affection, aren't you? Is this... You're gonna do it, aren't you? Yep, you are. Yeah. Hi. I bet you didn't know that there's a whole different costume you could be wearing to the Renaissance Fair to go as a Scottish Highland woman that isn't the Molly dress. Thanks to my friend Melanie and her connection with the Renfaires Guild Clan McCullen and their amazing costume resource, I learned all about the Highland women's garb of the Renaissance era. This amazing, I like it a lot. It's so cute. Anyway, this video is all about the bodice. And what's different about this bodice is that it's a little longer. It has longer peplums, which is that piece that it extends over the hips and flares a little bit. If your bodice has peplums at all, that's what they are. I really wanted to use a pattern and modify it if I had to, because I want this project to be accessible to you should you also want to make this costume. So I was thinking about what's out there and stuff, and then Tessa Thurman, who has some pretty cool LARP and Renfaires inspiration on her Instagram, suggested that I use Simplicity Pattern 3809. So into my stash I went to see if I had it. Aha! I knew it! I actually have 2 copies of this. It's probably in 2 different sizes because my wife and I span 2 different envelope sizes. So yay! We found them! Okay, now I know how much material I need. Okay, we go. I don't know if this one's still in print. I tried looking for it online. You can find it on a couple places, but on the Simplicity site, I couldn't find it. I've been waiting for material to not be on sale because the coupon does better at saving me money. So hot tip there, you know, sometimes that 40 to 60 to 50% off beats that what's going to be 25% off at the fabric stores. So that's a little tip. It's saying 1 1/4. Because of the extended peplums that I need to do, I'm going to guess that I'm going to extend that to 2 yards. Maybe 2.5. The fabric store I was at was really limited in canvas colors, and I didn't have time to go into Portland proper to larger stores. It was just time to deal with what was available. I really wanted to work with brown and orange. The brown canvas was attainable, but the orange, I had to go with the synthetic, but at least it had a natural fiber and hand-woven look. Between the lack of selection and prices, the trip to the fabric store definitely made me miss the Los Angeles fabric district. But with my coupon and the sales that were going on, the material for my bodice and new skirt came to about $120, which isn't completely horrible. Yeah, I think this is definitely the shape I want to go for. I'm going to skip this trim here, or rather bias tape is what they have you use here. I'm going to skip all that. And then just extend the peplums. And we're basically good. Oh, I'm definitely going to want to join these instead of having them tie on top. Just go ahead and sew them together. To figure out where things would line up on my body and how much I needed to extend the pattern pieces to get the elongated parts, I chalked out where the original pattern landed and where I wanted the extensions to land on my body, and then measured out the difference. According to my draping and measuring, I would need to extend the peplums about 5 inches. After noting those numbers, it was time to draft the new peplum based on tracing the original pattern and adding the new measurements. You don't have to have pattern drafting paper for this. You can always use baking paper, butcher paper, or even a grocery shopping bag. A curved shoulder, no likey, so I am going to mod this a little bit. So while I cut this out, I'm going to leave myself a little tissue paper so I can do a little modding straight up on the pattern on this. So, God, best why. I mean, they could have at least said corset. What? Okay. Don't understand. And same with the back. I'm going to need to make that more square, but I'm not going to just cut it off here because that means it'll be shorter and we don't want that. So I just need to extend this like that. Remember, I wanted to have a closed seam instead of tied shoulders from the bodice front to the back, so I had to line up the pattern pieces and draw new seam lines and then allow for seam allowance. The peplums needed to attach to the true waistline. Here I am marking where that is across the whole pattern because I need to remove that pointed front just below the waistline in the original pattern. Despite doing that, I ended up with this weird angle when putting together my mock-up. The bodice silhouette should go straight across in the front and shouldn't have any points. Here I'm pinning the mock-up to where the seam line should land and then chalking out the new lines. Oh yeah, and that little bulge in the back, gotta get rid of that. This is why it is important to do mock-ups. I have a dress form, but it's really generic and I do basic draping and pinning on that, but when it comes to tailoring, I have to use my own body. I really could have just used half of this. Oh well, better safe than sorry. And I will use that for another project, I guess. Okay, so not quite half, because I forgot my back peplum needed to be on the fold. Whoops. Okay, so, but luckily we have enough. And I spilled my pins. How many times do you spill your pins during a project? Here I am cutting some steel boning that I had down to size. I used a rasp and Plasti Dip to dull and coat the new edges. One of the things I'm going to be changing here is the original placement of the boning. It was going to be right, pretty much this is sewn together, this is going to end up like pretty much right on my boob, which is how sometimes bodices or corsets are constructed when like they use that plastic boning that just ends up breaking. That stuff is terrible. But I don't want that there. I want it a little more of a, let's just say side reinforcement. So I think I'm going to put this just a little more to the side here, just scoot it over a little bit and put a new placement here. That's what I think I'm gonna do. Checking seams is really important. I will always test these along the way, especially in places that are going to be under a lot of stress. I have my boning in and I've reinforced the fabric by serging the ends. There are ways to do that without an overlocking sewing machine. Check out the tutorials on YouTube. I needed to do this because unfortunately the orange fabric really frays easily and I need to do everything I can to keep it from fraying or it will just pull itself apart at the seams. I was putting together the orange bit and oh, by the way, notice how it's not closing all the way and anything like that. Don't worry about that if you're constructing this. What's going to end up happening, because it's corseted, there's going to be boning here, it's all going to cinch right up. I've even put this up against this was a amazing custom made bodice that a friend of mine made for me, and I could have used this as a pattern, but I wanted to have this video be more accessible so that you guys can go and find patterns that could possibly replicate the same thing. So that's why we're working this way. But if you have a bodice that you really like that fits you really well, really, I do recommend. I laid the bodice piece against this and this still fits me. So, you know, at first I was like, oh no, it's not coming together, but right, it's corseted. This will all be corseted. So this matches up with this. Good to go. Rewinding again. I was putting this one together, this one together, and the sides were actually lining up better. I always meant to have the little pleat in the back, but everything here was lining up perfectly, so it made me reconsider going back to the canvas, the other canvas one, the brown one. Ripping things up again, it's always worth it to go back if something's not quite right, fix it there instead of just regretting your piece. And after you've spent all this time and money putting this together, just go back and fix every little piece you need to fix. Just, it's worth it. I went back and repinned this, and we should be good to go. It all lines up now. So yeah, it overhangs a little bit here, but that's gonna be fine. Now that the orange and the brown sides line up, it was time to sew them together. More modifications. After trying this on, I felt like it flared too much in a point, and I really wanted to have more of a soft curve to my flare, so I'm ditching this. I just layered everything on top, so this is all going to line up and be together. So that's all. Just wanted that quick update. Use the steel, trust me. Go steel all the way. I'm gonna sew a little bit right here and add these here, yes, afterwards, but that's okay, because when the grommets go right next to this is going to stabilize those grommets or those eyelets, whatever you use, so much more than if you don't have this. And even if you use the plastic ones, they just kind of like bulge out in places where you tighten more or less in certain places. So this just creates a lot more stability in the front. I am already very concerned about how this weave right here is loosening up, and kind of, this is usually a sign that this will end up tearing from itself, and this is why you want to do the backing that we did. Two things: I probably should have done a fused interfacing, not just the muslin behind it, but we're going to hope it gets us through this weekend, see how it goes. Yeah, because it should be nice and tight here, but see how this is getting, it's pulling on that weave. So what I might do is I might stitch in the ditch here. Stitch in the ditch is when you stitch along a seam line in the seam line, so that it secures it in there and you don't even see the stitch stitching in the ditch. Another thought is I might consider even maybe doing another just top stitch along this just to reinforce it. It's some of the thoughts I have, but that is really concerning me. I always hate that it's the last step. Like, you work so hard to do this amazing costume, and then it comes down to the buttons and the grommets, and you can totally misalign those and just be like, well, we're here now. We put in all this sunk cost. We're just gonna roll with it. Wish us luck. All right, it looks like what's going to work best is about a finger spacing apart, and I get about 8 eyelets on each side, which means I am short because I thought one package would do it, but that's okay. I will just get what I can done today, and know that I'll have to add one more grommet. I need to go back to the craft store just for one more eyelet. Of course, I was still hand sewing and couching eyelets with embroidery thread during the long drive to Southern California, where I would wear this bodice for its maiden voyage. I'm feeling pretty good about this bodice, and I have gotten a ton of use out of it already. I even found out that it looks pretty cute with a puffy sleeve blouse and some jeans, so it's probably going to get some more use than just Renaissance Fair and LARP. I hope this video inspires you to be more bold with your costuming and your patterns. There will be more videos in this series. In the meantime, enjoy all the other content that I am releasing here and on Instagram, on TikTok. Subscribing is always the best way to stay up to date, and I will see you soon.